Hi, and welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero podcast, the show where I cover the least in the best way possible. I'm your host, Jason Wells. Week 16 is done. Happy holidays. Christmas season is over. I am exhausted. Lots of football played. The playoff picture is shaping up. Dolphins clinch our playoff spot. I am very, very happy. It was a very good game against the Cowboys, and we will get all into that in the recap. To start off, though, I'm just going to give holiday recap. I am very busy, and to preface this just off the top of the show, I wasn't able to watch all of the games because it was very, very busy. That is one thing about how the NFL schedule lines up, where there's always games Thursday, Sunday, Monday, like usual, but because they can play around on the weekends, now that college football isn't really a thing. And having that line up with Christmas, not ideal exactly. I like spending my Sundays just sitting around at home watching football. When my family's around, it's a little more stressful. I was watching that Dolphins game with my family around, and my family's lovely, don't get me wrong. But there's times where I'm sitting there and I'm watching, and I have to watch the game on mute because everyone else is around. People are asking me questions like, "Oh, I thought Tua was better," or, "Oh, I thought blah blah blah. What's wrong with this?" And it's just like, oh, it's stressful, and it's stress that only like a true sports fan, when you're watching with other people who you don't normally watch with or don't really follow completely what's going on. But nonetheless, it was good. A lot of driving. Visited my girlfriend's family back in southern Ontario. Very, very nice time. Got a white Christmas there, thankfully, because right now it is 5 degrees, no snow. I'm not really working right now. That sucks a lot, but beside the point. So I have something to do here. Holiday giveaway jersey time. I know I said I was going to do this on Christmas. It's been busy, so I'm going to redo it or do it right now. I will post this tonight. The podcast obviously comes out Wednesday, but thank you to everyone who entered. I have a wheel. I have a wheel right here. It is spinning around, and let's see who it lands on right now. Going around. Oh. Congrats to my lovely friend Brian. I know that camera is flipped, but you have won a lovely DH jersey of your choice. Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays. Congratulations. I guess let's get into the Week 16 recap. Don't really have an NFL weekly update. Again, it's been busy. Actually, one more thing before I get to the recap here. I didn't put out either episode last week. I know I said I was going to be... I think I said I was putting them out. Yeah, and I was going to make one long recording. At least that's the recording I said. I had so many technical issues. I don't know what was happening. But I was recording on Zoom, because Zoom's always like my last priority because the video quality's so low, and my mic just wasn't this mic connected. It was still like my computer mic, and the audio was absolutely terrible for more than half of it. So I just scrapped the whole thing. I was tired, and then I went to southern Ontario and didn't want to record there, and my girlfriend's parents' place. So no episodes. I apologize though, but I didn't want to put out a crappy or half-finished product. So I got some takes from last week that I'm going to say now. And let's just get into the Week 16 recap. Okay, Week 16 recap here. No NFL weekly update. Not a lot happened. It was the Christmas season. I think I'm covering the basis of almost anything anyways. So, as always, let's start off with the game that we watched last night. Ravens 33, 49ers 19. The Ravens were dominant from start to finish. The defense, 5 turnovers, 5 interceptions. They kept the Niners in check. Shout out to Patrick Queen. He has been incredible. He deserves apology from a lot of people, but shout out to this man, Lamar Jackson, now 20-1 against the NFC in his career. That one loss, you might be wondering, is to Danny Nichols there over on the Giants, but Lamar owns the NFC. I think it's a large reason where these teams only see him once every 4 years, uh, typically, where they don't really get to see him up close, him against their defenses to see how it works, where the AFC can get more of a picture. I know film's always out there, but playing it live is different because Lamar is special. Lamar is right now on pace to be the this year's league MVP. That would be his second of his very young career, and the man is special. I was talking about it last week in the audio that will never be found or salvaged, where Lamar's ability to, obviously we know he's such an elite runner, and his speed and his agility and his ability to get by guys, but just his maneuverability in the pocket, his ability to make guys miss, prolong plays, extend them into runs, throwing on the run. His accuracy has just gotten better, and obviously, like, he's a very good passer of the football. A lot of people don't give him credit for that part of his game, but he is still very, very good at that, and obviously his athleticism is the major tool of his. He's fantastic to watch, and he doesn't take big hits. Like, he avoids big hits very, very well, but that doesn't stop him from getting yards and breaking tackles, and he is a treat to watch. He is very, very fun. He is truly one of a kind, and that's why he is the MVP favorite right now. Obviously, going into this game, Brock Purdy was the MVP favorite. Someone cashed their ticket. There's agencies and stuff to be like, oh, you have a cash out at this, we'll give you that amount and we'll take your ticket. And if it gets the full amount, we keep all that money. That man looks like a genius now because Brock Purdy, after that game, not the MVP favorite at all anymore. But yeah, this MVP race is a lot of fun. It is very week to week right now. That's kind of what I'm enjoying right now about the season. Is truly up in the air. Ravens and Dolphins play next week. If Tua has a game like he did last year against the Ravens, where he has 400 and something yards and 6 TDs, they get the 1 seed. I think that the Dolphins are the AFC favorites, or Tua would be the MVP favorite. If Tyreek goes off, he has a chance to get his name in the MVP conversation. And like, that's obviously if the Dolphins win. If the Ravens win next week, Lamar has it on lock. I think Josh Allen still has a sneaky chance of winning MVP. It's, let's say, Lamar loses, doesn't have that great of a game, Miami wins, but Tua and Tyreek aren't overly impressive or whatever, and then Josh Allen dismantles the Patriots, and then Josh Allen and Miami play, and then Josh Allen beats Miami or something like that. Either way, it's an open conversation. That's what I like about the MVP race so far. And haven't really been talking much about this game, but I have to give a shout out, obviously, to this Ravens defense, forcing 5 turnovers on the Ravens. We got an interception from Marcus Williams. I think that was on Sam Darnold. Kyle Hamilton, 2 interceptions. Everyone just overlooked Kyle Hamilton in the draft process. Here's a really, really good football player, and if your team was too stupid to not make it work with a guy like Kyle Hamilton, you have issues. And the Ravens, that's what they do. They just take these really good football players that just fall to them and they make them work. Kyle Hamilton is special. He's one of the best safeties in this league. He is a very, very good player. I'm excited to see how he gets used. He did hurt his knee. He was doubtful to return. I don't think he did return. Who else had these in there? Patrick Queen. Everyone owes you an apology. They did not like you as a first round pick. People judged you. They say you were too small. And next, since they've acquired Roquan Smith and allowed Patrick Queen to just kind of be a little bit of a pass rusher, a little bit of a do-it-all kind of guy, doesn't have to be the play caller. He's been an animal, and him and Roquan are one of the best linebacking tandems in this league. Is that all the interceptions? Yeah, that's 5. And Ronald Darby with the last interception. Oh, wait, no, I was reading that wrong. Marlon Humphrey. Great corner. This Ravens team is very good. They are now obviously number 1 in my power rankings. Does Clowney have double-digit sacks on the year now? No, he only has 8.5. All Either way, Ravens, number one team in the league. That can change next week. Miami Ravens for the 1 seed. Let's fucking get it. Niners, on the other hand, I talked about Brock Purdy, MVP. Not really a thing anymore. I think CMC has the better odds than Purdy now. However, they had 5 turnovers on the game, 4 interceptions from Purdy, one from Darnold when he came in after Brock Purdy left with a stinger. But yet they still had more passing yards and rushing yards. Really, the difference in this game is the turnovers, and the Niners usually don't have games like this. Didn't help that Ayuk and Debo were dropping literally everything. A lot of balls bounced off hands into Ravens players' hands. And I think if this game were to have a rematch, it doesn't look like this. And the fact that the Niners had a chance at the end of the game to close it to 7 points, and then Sam Darnold threw another turnover. And if this game would have ended 33-27, am I doing that right? 33-26, I should say, where the Niners only lost to the Ravens by 7 and they had 4 turnovers. It's not bad. This is a throw out the film game for the Niners. Yeah, not really much else you can say. This was just bad from top to bottom. CMC still looked pretty good. And the other thing that's kind of concern, the Niners' offensive line is very, very banged up right now. I think Aaron Banks left with injury. Trent Williams left with a groin injury. And if he's not there, that offensive line just kind of falls apart because he is the only really, really great offensive lineman they have. I think everyone else on their offensive line is just kind of average at best. But this was a great game. The game lived up to the hype. Shout out to the Ravens for taking it to them. Really. We will continue on with these Monday Christmas games. The mid-afternoon game. Giants 25, Eagles 33. I guess we'll start off. Jalen Hurts sets the most rush touchdowns by a QB, I think with 16 on the season. Fake stat, fake record if you ask me. I don't count 1-yard QB sneaks. Obviously, they are rushing TDs, and they count as rushing TDs in the record books, but they're not rushing TDs. It's as simple as that. I think this is kind of a fake stat. There won't have an asterisk on it, but we all know that this is his tush-push powers, the brotherly shove that gets him all of these touchdowns, but it counts in the record books, and I guess that's okay. Eagles, though, I mean, you let the Giants score 25 on you. I know that one of those was a pick six that Jalen Hurts threw, but this Giants offense is not very good. The Eagles, it's like, okay, they lost 3 straight. They're back on the winning track. That's fantastic, but not good, not great football. And you scored 33. That's great. But this defense is just not good. And I think the Eagles offense is fine. It looked okay. But again, they should be scoring 33 on a team like the Giants, who just aren't very good. The Eagles are still a very, very good football team. Get hot at the right time. They have 2 more games left on the season to kind of get things right, get things back on track more. This is a big game. They needed a win like this. The defense just needs to play its part. Getting Darius Slay back when they do get him back will be big. But for now, they're fine. They're very good, but they're just fine. Giants, on the other hand, the Tommy DeVito story is dead. He was benched in this one for Tyrod Taylor. DeVito was 9 for 16 for 55 yards. Tyrod comes in 7 for 16, 133 yards. TD and an interception. But yeah, really nothing to really talk about in this one. Adoree Jackson was the one with the pick six. Yeah, and I think that the Giants, it's credit to them. They're playing very hard, but this is a roster that is very, very far away from actually competing. I think Brian Dable is a hell of a head coach, but they got a lot of work to do. They're going to be a tough team to play just because the way Dable coaches this team and coaches these guys up. But they're a long way from being anywhere. So let's keep going. I guess yeah. Maybe the Tommy DeVito hype train is dead. It was fun. I don't know why he would start next week. I think Tyrod deserves that chance to go out and prove that he can still play in this league. Uh, we like the Tommy DeVito story, but we all know he's not a great quarterback. He's maybe a backup quarterback, but the Tommy Cutlets name will live on in the history books of the NFL from here to the end of time. And last Monday game we have Raiders 20, Chiefs 14. Absolutely unbelievable. The Chiefs offense outscored the Raiders 14-6, but two defensive touchdowns, one by I think Bilal Nichols and the other one from former Patriots, now Raiders corner Jack Jones. Scored back-to-back defensive touchdowns, I think within like 7 seconds of each other. But yeah, the Raiders were only able to score 6 points on offense. Two field goals from Carlson, obviously, because Aiden O'Connell, 62 passing yards in the first quarter, 0 in the second, 0 in the third, 0 in the fourth. That's how you still manage to win games. And somehow the Raiders have an outside chance of winning the division, I think, if the Chiefs lose out and the Raiders win out, which would be absolutely unbelievable. Again, I don't think it will happen, but would be insane. Yeah, the Antonio Pierce, the interim head coach, he was asked after the game kind of what this means and him growing up in the area and being like a Raiders fan. I guess not in the area, but he grew up a Raiders fan and now he's the coach and he got emotional. He choked up a little bit and it's nice to see. It's nice to see these men in these positions showing that emotion and showing how happy they are to be in that position. And Pierce deserves it. Pierce has been just kind of the spark that this Raiders team needs because they're fairly talented. I like Max Crosby. I like Jack Jones. I'll talk more about Jack Jones in a bit, but he is coaching these guys up well, and I think that he has completely earned the right to take off that interim label, let him be the head coach, and just see where it goes. Like, for the time being, keep him around. I don't know why bringing in anyone from the outside. Like, these guys respect him. These guys are playing hard from him, and I'm sure that Mark Davis realized that same thing when they had to fire Gruden, and then Rich Bisaccia comes in, they make the playoffs. Rich should have stayed the head coach. They shouldn't even looked at McDaniels. McDaniels helped put the fucking franchise back into the dirt a little bit with some of the moves he wanted to make. Stick with Pierce. The guys love him. The guys respect him. Now, you got to fix a lot of things on the team, but that's for whoever the future GM to figure out. But Pierce wants to be the head coach. He deserves it. This Raiders team is playing hard. They're not very talented, but they got the building blocks. And one of those building blocks is Jack Jones. Jack Jones, I mentioned, had the pick 6 in this one on Mahomes. And before I get into the whole Jack Jones thing, so he has the pick 6. He's celebrating, he's going up at like the base of the stands there on the field, and it looks like he's gonna give this nice young Chiefs fan like the ball that he just scored a touchdown with, and then he rips it away. Just hilarious in general. He didn't mean to do it apparently. Apparently there was a guy in the back, and if you see in the background who was also just trying to steal the ball from those kids. So he was being like, no, that guy fuck off. But even if that's the thing, he didn't mean to do it, but it was so funny to see that, to be like, fuck the Chiefs, it's good for rivalries, it's kind of good for football in a way. Obviously, it's a very scumbag move, but if you know the history of Jack Jones, you can see why people would think that he would do that. Not a very smart individual, has had his history of problems. That's why Jack Jones is working on the Raiders and he wasn't on the Patriots, because Antonio Pierce is his head coach. Pierce was his coach in college. I think he understands him, reins him in. Obviously, off season in Vegas, we'll see what happens. But Jack Jones is great. Jack Jones, when he plays and when he has his head on his shoulders, is one of the better cornerbacks in football. And it's too bad the Patriots couldn't make it work with him, because him and Christian Gonzalez could have made an amazing corner tandem up in New England that Bill Belichick or Gerard Mayo could have been used in that defense. But either way, couldn't work. Vegas is happy they have him. Yeah. On to the Chiefs. Mahomes, the Chiefs, start the game going 3 and out on their first 2 drives of the game. First time in Mahomes' career that has ever happened at home. And that's just kind of the story of this game. They played bad, and I've been saying it basically all year since that opening Lions game is I don't trust this Chiefs offense to really get it together. And there is so much frustration, so much more whining and complaining from Mahomes, and he has his faults too. He is doing way too much. It's one of those classic things where Mahomes, we all know he's one of these, he's still the best quarterback in football. I don't care what people are saying. The fact that he was relatively still in the MVP conversations, and he's having the worst year of his career, but the worst year of his career is still easily a top 10 QB of the season. Beside the point, though, he did have his flaws. He's doing way too much, but he is also the only reason why the Chiefs were able to move the ball up the field at all. But he was complaining and whining. He was yelling at the offensive line because they stunk. Travis Kelce was throwing his helmet, also whining and complaining. Reed told him to shut the hell up and sit down. He doesn't get his helmet back. It's a lot of dysfunction, and it's a lot of dysfunction that we haven't seen from the Chiefs on offense quite literally ever. They need help, and people talk about, Kelce's getting older, he's fallen off. He's still on pace to get another 1,000 yards as a tight end, which just doesn't happen. Like, again, it's one of those things. Travis Kelce's old. Travis Kelce's having a down year. Travis Kelce's still easily the best tight end in football and having a top 3 season as a tight end right now. But, yeah, the offense, it just looks so out of whack, and this was a game where they should have gotten it right, and it wasn't the defense's fault. The defense only let up 6 points. The offense, like the Chiefs' offense, lost them this game because Mahomes had 2 bad turnovers. I don't know where to go from the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to make the playoffs. They need to win one more game to seal up the division, but this is... I didn't expect it. I did expect it because I've been saying that the Chiefs' offense hasn't been good, but especially against a divisional opponent, against the Raiders, Mahomes always crushes them, but they don't look good, and Isaiah Pacheco also left the game with a concussion because he just didn't want to wear his helmet correctly. His helmet popped off twice, and the second time it popped off, one of his linemen's knee went right to the back of his head, and concussed. Just wear your helmet properly. It keeps your head so safe. You're wearing these big, heavy shoulder pads. You're playing with guys who are 350 pounds. Like, protect your head. And it's also, like, I know that, like, and even when you have your straps done up on the helmet still pops off. But it's just, the way that football equipment's designed, we need an update. It's designed so poorly. But Pacheco's own fault where he's out now and has a concussion, and that's a big part of their offense. But I don't know where the Chiefs go from here, but let's go all the way back now to Thursday Night Football. Saints 22, Rams 30, and I owe the Rams a giant apology. I was totally under on them. I didn't think that they were going to make the playoffs. I thought at best they'd be around a 500 team. And at their worst, I thought they could have been the worst team in the league this year. I didn't think Stafford coming off his, I think, elbow or shoulder injury on his throwing arm, that he's old. He's not going to come back from that. Didn't like their offensive line very much. I was like, is Kyron Williams really the guy? Like Cooper Kupp, I thought would be the only weapon they had on that offense. And the defense, other than Aaron Donald, I didn't know a single name on it, basically. And it's a credit to how good of a coach Sean McVay is, how good of a job Les Snead has done getting these young players around, how good of a job defensive coordinator Raheem Morris has been getting these no-name defensive player guys to make his defense look average, because that's what they need to be, because their offense is humming. Stafford is still a top 10 quarterback in football. I have to go through my rankings because it is tough. Stafford is still very, very good. Kyron Williams, someone who I think ran like a 4.72 at the combine. He has been fantastic, one of the better running backs in football. Cooper Kupp is obviously still Cooper Kupp, but shout out to Puka Nacua, who had another big game, 9 catches, 164 yards, 1 touchdown, putting him at 1,327 yards, 5 TDs on the season. I think he only needs like 120 yards in the last 2 games to break the rookie receiving record once held by Jamar Chase. And he was like a 5th-round pick. Like, this Rams team is so good. They finally have their 1st-round pick. Maybe they go all in again because they know it's running out with Stafford and Darnold. I think that's probably what their plan will be next year. They will trade assets to get some of these aging vets on their team to try to make another Super Bowl run with Stafford, and they're good. The coaching is good. The GM is good. They find good players. They all play like the Rams. The Rams are fun to watch, and I am very, very excited to hopefully see them play the Lions in the playoffs, because that would just be like the cherry on top. Goff revenge game, Stafford revenge game. That trade coming full circle would be great. Would be great. Anything else? I guess the Saints, on the other hand, they made it look interesting at the end, scoring 15 in the 4th quarter. Don't let that fool you. They were getting blown out the entire game. This game wasn't close. The Rams took their foot off the pedal a little bit there at the end. Chris Olave, though, big game, 9 catches, 123 yards. But yeah, the Saints, they're stuck. They don't know what to do. They're not making the playoffs. I think the Bucks clinch the NFC South with a win next week. Hopefully they don't, and my Falcons try to creep out of the gutters. But yeah, the Saints, you're stuck with Derek Carr and his big contract, and you're stuck with a million other big contracts. And basically, until those big contracts stop, you can't do anything about it. And this is how your team's going to look for the next 3 years. Like, somewhat competitive, not bad enough to get bad picks, just right in that worst place you could be in football is that purgatory where you're picking in the picks like 10 to 16, where you know you're not making the playoffs, but you know you're not bad enough as those other teams. So you're hoping that you pick a good guy. There's none of those blue chip guys left on the board. They're just stuck like that for the next 3 to 5 years, I believe, until their contracts run out. It's going to be tough to be a Saints fan for the next few years. We will move on, though, onto the Saturday games. Bengals 11, Steelers 34. Rudolph with your nose so bright. Won't you guide my football team tonight? Yeah. Mason Rudolph comes in, looks phenomenal. What was he on the day? 17, 27, 290 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and I say he looks phenomenal. No. This was the George Pickens game. This was the George Pickens. He was getting trashed. He was getting trashed by me last week to be like, you got to show effort. You got to be blocks. You are a dog. We want that dog mentality, and he heard all the noise from everybody on the outside, and George Pickens went off. So of Mason Rudolph's 290 yards, George Pickens had 195 of them. The man had 4 catches, 195 yards, 2 TDs. Get the ball in his hand. Get the ball in his hand. He can make plays. He is a yak monster. He is very good. He's special. The fact that Mason Rudolph had 95 yards that weren't to George Pickens, like, absolutely unbelievable. This truly was the George Pickens game. But yeah, the Steelers get it done, and of course, Steelers home dog. This game would have put them at 7-8, losing record. They are now 8-7, 2 games left. Mike Tomlin is not having a losing record on his resume. And someone else who might have heard the noise from the media, it was reported, I think, by Diana Rossini, where Mike Tomlin's name has been thrown out as a trade candidate for a few possible teams, like the Panthers, the Bears, I think the Chargers maybe, as a way for the Steelers to recoup some assets while moving on from the Tomlin area. And no, this was a Mike Tomlin spot where his team plays hard. It's not him. It's just get me the right quarterback, because if the Steelers team has the right quarterback, I think that it is good. But Mike Tomlin doesn't lose these games. Mike Tomlin is a very, very, very good coach, and the Steelers are very lucky to have him. Yeah, I was going to say it last week before I couldn't record or before I got lost, but Mike Tomlin has never had a losing record. The Steelers -4, or +4, was a lock. Of course it was going to happen. I think it was +3 actually, but he doesn't lose. He's never had a losing record. Of course he was going to beat this team. It's impressive. Great for the Steelers to get this win. Keeps their very slim playoff hopes alive, but alive nonetheless. I know they have the Ravens as their last game. Seahawks in this. I think that it will be tough to get that one last win to secure that above 500 record, but don't doubt Mike Tomlin. Bengals on the other side. Jake Browning kind of finally had that letdown game. Still had 335 yards, but did have 3 interceptions on the day. Actually, last note, because I'm now remembering, with the suspension to DeMonte Casey and Minka Fitzpatrick being injured, they moved Patrick Peterson to safety. He had an interception. I think that's the right move. I think Pat Pete, being the elite cornerback that he was, where he can shadow anyone because he's super athletic. The man's still very athletic for his age, but put him at safety where he can analyze the field and really just kind of be a roamer, because he understands defenses incredibly well, can read offenses also incredibly well. I think putting him in that safety spot, I think that can extend his career for another couple years. So I hope they continue that. But yeah, Jake Browning finally had a game where he didn't look like Joe Burrow, essentially. Yeah, and it's kind of like the rule with backup QBs, where it's like you get 3 straight really good games like max, and then the wheels fall off a little bit. Yeah, this kind of ends it for the Bengals here, their playoff hopes. I thought that they were going to do it. They did not. Obviously, they were missing DJ Reader in this one. That was a big loss for them. And that defense definitely suffered for it. But really, it was the George Pickens game, and it was the Browning interceptions that did them in. So we will move on. Next game up here. Bills 24, Chargers 22. The Bills win this game when the Chargers had more time of possession, more first downs, less penalties and turnovers. Bills had 3 turnovers, and the Chargers still lost this one. That's just kind of how the story of the Chargers season goes. How the Bills, this is how their season goes, where they play down to every opponent they have. They play down to every bad opponent they have, play up to every good opponent they have. That's the way it goes. That's the way it goes for them. And yeah, if they weren't such a talented team, any team that has 3 turnovers, loses the time of possession battle, loses the penalty battle, has fewer first downs, usually loses that game. But the Bills don't. Yeah, I don't really have much to add. The Bills got lucky. This is the story of the Bills season. It's what we have seen throughout the entire season, so I'm not surprised that the Bills didn't really close this one out or didn't really put their foot down on this Chargers team that is one of the worst teams in the NFL right now. The fact that the Easton Stick led Chargers had a chance with a game winning drive to come down and kick a field goal at the end of the game is that's something. That's something, Bills fans. Yeah, but I guess it's partly due to Jiff Smith. It is officially Jiff Smith. I was confused last week whether it be GIF or maybe just a weird spelling of Jeff, but it is Jiff. The interim head coaching bump is a real thing. I think if Brandon Staley was still the head coach of this team, they would have got absolutely boat raced, but Jiff Smith did his thing, almost won the game, which would have been very funny, but yeah, good for them for getting that coaching bump. But yeah, the Bills roll. Bills have the Pats, Bills have the Dolphins, and right now it looks like the Bills are going to be one of those wild card teams here. I think they only need one more win to really seal things up, but a lot can happen. A lot can happen here still. Let's keep going, though. Now, this is one of the games where I did not watch basically any of it. I got home, so again, visiting my lovely girlfriend's family in southern Ontario. So we drove back early Sunday morning, got back here around 2-ish. So the games had already started, and then I flicked on Red Zone, and then we're unpacking and prepping for other Christmas dinners and stuff. So it was very busy, but Seahawks 20, Titans 17. One of the games just kind of got lost in the backfold. Didn't see anything. I don't have any major stats. The Seahawks did their thing. Geno came back, looked like Geno Smith. The trio of Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba and Metcalf all did their thing rather efficiently. Happy for my Seahawks future that they need one more win down the stretch. One more win down the stretch here to hit their... Oh, no, they need 2 more wins. They need to get to... Oh, no. Who do they have to hit my future? I bet them over 9.5 wins. Steelers and Cardinals. Is there a betting line out for that yet? Seahawks minus 3.5. Interesting. Yeah, Seahawks in line to now make the playoffs, though, right? I was just looking at that. Yeah, in that final wildcard spot, 1 game ahead of teams like the Vikings, the Falcons, and the Packers and Saints. Yeah, don't really have much of that. Titans on the other side. Will Levis did not play in this one. In comes Ryan Tannehill, and I think Ryan Tannehill is just done as a starting quarterback in this league anymore. Didn't really do anything. Derrick Henry had a passing touchdown in this one. But again, credit to Mike Vrabel and credit to this Titans team for always playing hard. That's what happens when you have a good coach that energizes the players and gets the players they want to play for him. And Mike Vrabel is one of those guys, on top of just being one of the better defensive minds in the sport right now. But we can keep going, though, here. Another game that I didn't really watch a heck of a ton of. Colts 10, Falcons 29. Taylor Heineke gets to start in this one. Plays relatively okay, I guess you can say. Yeah, the Falcons they got it done. Bijan Robinson had a good game that he hasn't really had in a while. 72 yards on the ground, 50 yards catching, 7 catches. Tyler Algier ripped off a big touchdown run of 31 yards. Kyle Pitts gets his 3rd touchdown on the season, and he has had a very linear progression every year. Got 1 TD his rookie year, 2 in his sophomore year, 3 in his junior year. I bet you Kyle Pitts will have 4 touchdowns next year. Yeah, but Falcons won this one. I got suckered into betting the Colts plus 1.5 because I'm like, the Colts are the better team. The Falcons aren't good. Blah, 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 blah. It was a sucker line. I got baited. I am the sucker. But yeah, Falcons winning this one. Colts, on the other hand, you lose this one. If the Colts would have won this one, though, they would be the number one team in the AFC South. So currently, since the Jags have had their woes and the Texans have had their woes, Jags, Texans, and Colts all tied right now at 8-7 in the AFC South. It is truly up for grabs, and this is a game that they maybe should have win. Jonathan Taylor comes back, 2.4 yard average. So that really looks like you paid the right guy there, Jim Irsay. And I'm shitting, and I have been shitting on Jonathan Taylor a lot, but I don't get paying running backs. And Jonathan Taylor, like, he hasn't looked good since he had that one spectacular year, I think, in 2021. But yeah, just it wasn't the Colts game, but they are still alive. We can keep going on, though. Browns 36, Texans 22. The Browns. The fucking Browns, man. One of the best stories of the season so far. And I hate it because they gave the nasty man the most guaranteed money in the history of the NFL. But you gotta like him. You gotta love the Joe Flacco coming in off the couch and just slicing and dicing, and he's looked good. Someone who maybe should win comeback player of the year. I think that would be a tough stretch, a tough sell. I don't think DeMar Hamlin should win it. That's just my opinion. Don't shoot the messenger. Even though it is my message in general. But regardless, Flacco, fourth oldest to throw for 300 plus yards in 3 straight games. He had 368 yards in this one, 3 passing touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and the reason he went off is because Amari Cooper had the game of his life. 11 catches, 265 yards, which is a Browns franchise record, and 2 TDs on the game. Cooper is also, that was his 4th 200-plus yard game, ties him with Jerry Rice. So ties him with Jerry Rice for second. Calvin Johnson has 5 200-plus yard games, and that is, so Amari Cooper is second. I have completely butchered this stat, and I'm just kind of rambling, but Amari Cooper is second with 200-plus yard games at 4 in history, basically, or in the Super Bowl era, which is very impressive. Amari Cooper is one of those guys who has just had a very, very solid career, and yeah, he's like just absolutely went off. And this Browns team and this Browns defense is so fun. Zadarius Smith 2 sacks, Duron Harmon an interception, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah an interception. They're the best story in football, and here I'm talking about Joe Flacco. 3 straight 300 plus yard games, 4th oldest to do that. I think I said that already, but like the guys ahead of him, you got Tom Brady, Brett Favre, Warren Moon, him, and then I think Peyton Manning. Very good company to be in, and he's like the first Browns quarterback to, I think, do that. I couldn't really find that, but the tweet from Brett Coleman said that Baker has been the closest one to do it back in 2020 when he had 2 straight games. And if you like to know, the nasty man has never had a 300-plus yard game in his Browns career so far. So nice to see Flacco coming in off the couch looking better than the most guarantees in NFL history. Browns are fun. Browns are, I believe, locked into a playoff spot now. Fun story. Team you don't really want to run into the playoffs. They can get hot. Don't let Joe Flacco go on a run like he did back in 2012, I believe. Texans, on the other hand, they're playing hard. They're playing hard for D'Amico, but Case Keenum gets benched. Davis Mills comes in, looks a little better, 15 of 30, 249 yards, 2 interceptions, but it's tough. CJ Stroud out with a concussion. Tough for him to really for them to really do anything. Davis Mills is fine, but he's no CJ Stroud. And until CJ Stroud gets back, I don't have a lot of faith in this Texans team. I'm hoping that he comes back next week, but again, like I said with the Colts, the Texans still have a chance to win this division. They're all tied right now, and now with Trevor Lawrence's injury, which we'll get into, the Jags are very, very vulnerable. So we will see. It's really anyone's division right now. We'll keep going, though. Packers 33, Panthers 30. Yeah, the Packers killed them. Didn't kill them, obviously, but welcome back Aaron Jones. He had a very good game on the ground, rushing with 127 yards, 6 a carry, 1 catch for 8 yards. Jordan Love looks good. The offense, it is working, and it is banged up, and I think they're kind of a year away from really building and contending something, but they got a nice squad over there in Green Bay right now. But this defense, and I went on a big rant about it last week that no one ever heard, but Joe Barry, the defensive coordinator for the Packers, needs to be fired. They just gave Bryce Young and this Panthers offense the best game of his young career so far. It's the reason that they lost whatever game that was last week, but this Packers defense is too talented for it to be playing this poorly. Yeah, and letting the Panthers score 30 on you is just flat out embarrassing. And if it wasn't for Matt LaFleur and this young offense, the Packers would have got crushed. But yeah, good on the Panthers anyways for showing up. I missed one note for the Texans. Let me rewind. Derek Stingley, the young corner, he has 5 interceptions now in 9 games on the season. That is tied for third with Jesse Bates so far this season. Happy that he has really found his game. Happy that he is proving to be worth that top 3 selection. I think he was third overall. Either way, he's playing really nice. Texans are building something. Need CJ Stroud to come back. Back to the Panthers. But yeah, the Panthers, Bryce Young had the best game of his young career. Like I said, 23 of 35, 312 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Adam Thielen continues to have a great season. He is going to get 1,000 yards, which is great for him. Not really a whole lot to talk about with the Panthers, though, obviously, but good for Bryce Young. You can do this in this league. Just the Panthers need to get you some help. We will keep going though. Commanders 28, Jets 30. The Jets blew a 20-0 lead. The Commanders were up 28-27. And then the Jets come back. Greg the Leg wins it on a field goal. I keep forgetting notes. The Panthers, so Panthers at the beginning of the game, they have their big drum that they bang before the game, their slogan, keep pounding, and they brought back Panthers legend fullback Mike Tolbert. If you don't remember Mike Tolbert, look up some Mike Tolbert highlights. He was a human bowling ball, but so they got the big drum, he's got the stick, and you're just supposed to bang on the drum before the game, and he broke through the drum. He just fucking wham, smoked it right through the drum. But like the drum says, it says keep pounding. That's what he did. Just had to add that note in there because it's just a funny moment. But yeah, Commanders, Jets. Greg the Leg wins it to make it. Why do I have 28-28? 28-30. Good on the Jets for winning this one. This was a big draft positioning game. I think now that puts the Commanders now pick 3rd overall, and the Jets, I believe, pick Oh, I am bad. Seventh overall, something like that. Either way, this isn't in the right order and stuff, anyways. But yeah, was big for draft positioning. Shout out to Brees Hall. He now has 2 games with 95 rushing yards, 95 receiving yards. Probably doesn't seem like a big deal, but that ties him second all time with guys like Bills legend Thurman Thomas, Larry Brown, who I think he was a Chiefs running back in the day. Don't quiz me on that. Brian Westbrook, old Philly running back. Priest Holmes definitely was a Chiefs running back. All those guys, the difference is they played 100+ games in their career. Brees Hall is only at his 22nd game of his career. Walter Payton is first with 3. Obviously, we all know Walter Payton, one of the best running backs of all time, but that's very good company for Brees Hall. And to be honest, I didn't think that 95+ rushing yards and 95+ receiving yards in a game was, obviously it's very, very good, and that's like a fantastic stat line to have, but I thought that there would be a few more guys that would have that. Like, I thought that Christian McCaffrey would have a few more games like that, but I guess it is very tough. But Brees Hall is fantastic, and one of the main reasons why this Jets offense really just functions. Him and Garrett Wilson. Again, I've been saying it for a while, but the only reason why this offense goes is because of those 2 men. Zach Wilson missed this one with a concussion. I think he's out again this week. Yeah. Jets hang on, though. I don't think I have anything else to really say. No, Commanders on the other side. Sam Howell gets benched. Sam Howell leaves the game with a 1.7 passer rating, was 6 for 22, 56 yards, 2 interceptions. And the question is Sam Howell now done as the Commanders' starting quarterback? I think he is now for the rest of this year. Jacoby came back, led them to an almost win again, 10 for 13, 100 yards, and a passing touchdown. And that's the thing. I think Jacoby is going to be the quarterback for the next 2 weeks here. At least I think he should. In his relief, he has looked very, very good. And now the Commanders, who pick 3rd overall, if they stay in that spot, they have a chance at picking Sam Howell's